Welcome to Canvas Projects, a virtual program offering from the Pflugerville Public Library. I'm Meg Miller, an Adult Services Librarian, here with another fun project geared to ages 12 and up for you to complete. Those who register through the library calendar can pick up their material supply kits, and for everyone else watching, we hope you give these techniques a try. This month's project is a Puff Paint Canvas. Let's start with a look at the supplies being provided. So in the brown bags that you picked up this month, we had the 8x10 canvas. You should have about 6 of the craft sticks, one of the small Gillette regular foamy shaving creams. It's just about 2 ounces. It's way more than you'll need for the project. And then in one of the larger sandwich bags, you should have 4 4-ounce containers that have the glue and paint mixture in them already. It seemed like kind of the easiest way to get this project to you rather than the paint separate. So in addition to what is in your kit, so your shaving cream, your brushes, your canvas, you may want to cover your surface. The water-based paint, glue, and shaving cream does, because we're using a canvas panel this month, does cause a little bit of warping because that moisture is pulling at the canvas. So it may be that you want to do something a little bit more internal and like tape down your canvas so you have a clean edge, and then that should hold it down while it is drying. If not, it's not too bad. So here is my example, and we can kind of see if we hold them up side by side that one corner is lifted a little bit as it dried. However, when it's kind of out, it's a cool effect. And now that it's really had time to dry, it's hardened, but it's still raised, and so does give that cool 3D effect. So for the video, purposes of the video, I do have my glue cups unmixed. It turns out a whole gallon of clear glue didn't quite fill 41 sets of these cups. So the green color does have your standard kind of Elmer's school glue in it versus this, which is just an Amazon Basics clear glue. Paint-wise, I did mix my red already because I used up all the red in making the kit. So this is just the Craft Smart Bright Red. The other colors you got, because it's February, so red and pink, we got the Folk Art Matte Vintage Tea Rose. And that was in one of our clear glues. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that color to this one. And really, that's kind of about as much as I added to each of these colors. Probably about what would be in a paint pot, but this way there wasn't any loss because the paint's already in the glue. The next up is a Folk Art Matte as well. This is the light blue. Just squeeze a little bit of that in there. I think some of the reds that you get in your kits will be a little bit darker because as I first started, that's the color I started with, and so I think I was adding a little bit too much paint to those guys. As I got to the other colors, I kind of figured out the ratio. I have also seen tutorials of this project. So for this one, Folk Art Matte, it's the final color is a Mossy Meadow. As I was saying, I have found tutorials of this project using food coloring versus paint in creating these. So in each of my little cups, I just have my paint and my glue mixture. As you've gotten these, they were created about 2 weeks before you picked them up. So you may need to mix up again to really get those paint and glue mixtures smooth. Pretty much the green one will be the one where you'll be best able to tell that you've missed any areas. I did stir every single one of these. So 160 little cups with glue and paint in them, but I didn't re-stir, so you're definitely going to have some separation. And I can see kind of on the side of this cup, big white spots if I've missed any places where the glue and the paint isn't really mixed up. So that's my green and my red. Let's get my blue in here. Another piece of extra, if you happen to have it around, if you've got any leftover paints from, if you're one of our regular Canvas project folks, if you've got leftover paints, you can pull those out and use that on this project. While my example, I did do a full coverage with the puff paint, and you should have more than enough to do that. You could just kind of make this more of an accent to your project versus the entirety of the project, so that you could use just standard paint on the back, and I'll kind of show what that'll look like. So in addition to our colors and glue, you got a little bit of shaving cream. Now the mixture on this, on the several tutorials that I watched, is about a 1-to-1. Now it's not something, all of them said you're eyeballing it, it's not an exact, and these cups should be about half full-ish with the paint and glue. So you're gonna kind of fill almost the rest of the way up, and it is gonna make it a little difficult to mix if you fill all the way to the top of the cup. So what I did is a little bit, mix in. So I'm just kind of folding in, doing a little kind of circular motion. This project will definitely make your house smell wonderful. It's got that clean shaving cream smell to it. It makes your project smell like that going forward. Although now that this other one has been dry for several weeks, I don't have that overwhelming smell of shaving cream. So if that's not a smell you're a fan of, you should be all right after a little bit. Depending on the weather, you could even just leave it outside and let it air out a little bit. So moving on to the blue, mixing in some shaving cream. I started out with a little less on this one. And because the shaving cream's white, it is going to lighten all these colors up just a little bit. All right. Ooh. Add a little bit more in this guy. And I can continue to add going forward if I feel the need to. Make sure that's good and mixed together. All right, our green. And if the green has a slightly different consistency, don't be too concerned. It had a slightly different glue to it. So it probably will be a little bit thicker. Ooh. Does get your hands tired as you're stirring, so be prepared for that. All right, I can just kind of pull off. All right, one last color. Okay, and this is actually the same bottle of shaving cream that I used for the example photo. So as I mentioned earlier, you are not going to need the entirety of that bottle. So this is a project that you could do again if you happen to have some glue around, some food coloring or other paints, and you wanted to create some other colors. All right, there's our red. Shows the longer craft stick so that you could really kind of scrape the sides and make sure you are good and mixed together. All right, so there are our colors. I got a little bit on my hand, but since it is glue and shaving cream, it kind of works away right off the bat. So on my canvas here, let's get a little bit more in frame now that we've got our, actually I think this green could stand a little bit more, because I can see that blue is right at the top. Pink not quite, red not quite, but that green was pretty low. There we go. Let's get that all good mixed. All right, so there's my colors. I do have some leftover paints from previous months. So since my example had the full coverage, I'm going to try and do a little bit on a kind of lighter, more just pieces. So I've got just a smidge of blue left there. I grabbed our white paint. I'm just going to add a little bit extra to it. Come in here. Let's make sure I get all this blue from the top and mix that together. It should give me a little bit more of a sky blue type color. Oh yeah. And then I can really just get some basic coverage on the canvas panel. Just a quick dry brush. I even have one of the larger paintbrushes that was, I believe, a project or two ago. And so that is something that would get this good coverage really quickly. I'm just doing kind of a quick sky. I also have my canvas horizontal. You could do a vertical where it's that 8x10 kind of standing. Also, since I'm doing more of a paint background versus the puff paint background, I expect that I will have less warping of my canvas itself because it will not have as much moisture pulling on it. All right, get some good coverage there. I think I am still going to do the green towards the bottom as the like dimensional kind of ground. So just pulling this blue as much coverage as I can get through it. Nice. There we go. All right. A little bit of white there in the middle. Blend some of that out. There we go. Come down. Beautiful. Really just quick coverage here for this. All right. I did give you a couple of extra craft sticks if you want to use one for mixing and kind of moving the puff paint, and the other for like kind of detail line work as you get farther into your project. So here's my green. A good mixture. It's a little bit like it's staying on my craft stick without kind of immediately running off, so it's not super runny. I can get a good amount and then just kind of tapping it out. I can also tilt my cup and get a bigger kind of glob out, a little puddle, and then I'm just using this craft stick to really kind of smooth it out, still leaving that little bit of texture to it. There we go. So that it's got that puff paint look to it, but moving it quicker than perhaps if I had just done a little bit at a time. There we go, all the way to the edge. And we're going to come down here, come back across, filling in. All right, there we go. I could definitely have done something where it was just kind of shapes, done maybe flowers or hearts. It is February. And pulled there. As this dries, there may be a few spots where it kind of pulls away. So while I'm filling here, I am not too worried that I have a little bit left. I'll set that aside. As I come back later, I will come in and grab that, you know, kind of fill in as it dries. All right, I've got my reds and my pinks. I'm going to kind of come here and do little blobs. Little blobs, like maybe some poppies or just other flowers. Oh, I definitely needed more on that. I got some down here in my green, so just running with that. Give a little blob there. There we go. All right, and I'm not too worried about the shapes. Our first pancakes and whatnot. All shapes are beautiful. We will come back with other colors and more puff paint and really kind of dial in what we've got. All right, you get the sense of what I'm doing there. So we're going to come back again. I'm going to come back with my pink, the same, just kind of dabbing. There we go, right in the center. Ooh. Curling over. There we go. Nice. So I could continue that. If I had other things, I could kind of pull through here. and make a little swirl. Oh yeah. Kind of marble up that design so some of that red comes into the middle. I could just pull some pink with my brush, and that's what I'm doing. Just really kind of marbling it right in. We could do that with other colors. I might wipe that brush off. Let's do that with a little bit of blue on this guy. Oh, blue doesn't want to come off. That's all right. We can get more. There we go. Swirl. Oh, so cool. So that is DIY puff paint. Projects like these you can do on any number of things. We brought you in with a canvas panel, but something like this you could put on a number of things. You see it's fairly shiny right now, but after it dries, we do have the matte paints, so it is going to matte out a little bit. I didn't really come in too much on these hearts and kind of pull it back in. I have, see there's where one of the spots dried, and I can see the canvas panel underneath a little bit. So had I still had some of my paint mixtures left, I could have come in here afterwards and kind of covered that and smoothed out the line of my heart so that that looked a little bit cleaner. Just coming around. A spoon or other utensil might be a good way to spread the material on. So give it a try, experiment, see what you got. If you've got other material, I wouldn't really recommend this on paper. As I said, it's pretty water intensive, and on paper, if it's warping a canvas panel, it's going to warp your paper and it's not going to stay quite as puffy. So thank you so much for joining us for DIY Puff Paint. We, as always, would love to see your projects and look forward to next month's Canvas projects.